Hey, so this is my beginning HTML video. This is how I start my students understanding HTML coding. Now, if you're just wanting to create a website, this is not the video for you. However, if you plan to embark on coding for your future, I'm going to teach you how to get started with coding. Now, I started coding way back in 1993 using something called Netscape Navigator and Notepad. I did it by hand. So a lot of this is based upon that experience. But one thing I'll tell you is just about every programming language has to output things or communicate using HTML. So you definitely want to have a basic understanding of that, which is why I start my students very early with HTML. And this is how I do that. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Screencastify. I'm filming this in fall 2021, and Screencastify has just come out with a lot of new features. Now, you can always record in Screencastify, but now you can edit, you can add quizzes, you can have student analytics. There's so many things that you can do. It is no longer just a screen recorder. You can cut and merge clips together and put things and make videos like this one. This whole video has been made with Screencastify in my web browser. No other editing tool has been needed. You can also submit using Screencastify. So all of my students use Screencastify when they are programming in code or making video games. I have them record their code and record the actions of their programs in Screencastify and turn it in. It's very easy to integrate with Google Classroom. So thank you, Screencastify, for sponsoring this episode. And now let's start learning about HTML. So today in this video, we are learning about HTML basics. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Hypertext Markup Language creates web pages and makes them functional. But don't let it confuse you. It's actually one of the simplest languages out there because just about anybody can use it with just a little bit of knowledge. So think of hypertext as that hyper puppy that you once knew, or the hyper kitty cat that jumped around. And so hypertext is text that allows a reader to jump to another page. It's hyper, just like that puppy. It was invented in 1989 by Tim Berners-Lee and some others, and we are now at the recording of this video at HTML5 standard. So that's what we'll be using. A markup language controls how computers speak to each other. In this example, this is actually a markup language for a wiki. So there are more markup languages than just HTML. But for purposes of what we're learning, we're just going to learn the HTML markup language. So it's just another way that computers speak to each other, and HTML happens to be the language of the web. So there are two pieces to hypertext markup language: tags and attributes. Let's take a look at this, and then we will start writing our own code. An HTML tag is enclosed with brackets. Now, the brackets on my Mac are right beside the M key and on top of the comma and the period. And in fact, that's the same place also on my PC. Now, notice proper syntax means that while there is a bracket, and some people would say, hey, I want to use a paragraph or I want to use another type of thing, you can't use those. Okay, so we are going to use proper syntax. We are going to use the HTML. I am not currently writing a full HTML document. I am just demonstrating what a tag would look like. So this is just a heading 1 tag. And you can see that it has an opener and a closing tag. So as I am using this, it makes, like, think of it like a little nest. It has to go around it. So everything inside the opening tag and the closing tag is a heading 1. The other principle that you have to understand about tags is that sometimes you will use things together. So let's say I was going to make this kind of dominant looking text and use the strong tag and the emphasis tag. And I'm going to say coders are cool. Now I have to close this in the reverse order of how I opened it. So I think of it like a nest. So there is strong on the outside, and then the inside of the nest is emphasis. So if I go strong and then emphasis, then I have to close it with emphasis and then strong. So you want to build that nest and you have to close the one you used last before you close the one that you used first. So you have to go in that order. Now, to code, you do have to use a text only editor. And there are lots of different text editors that are available, but we are going to use Sublime Text. Go to sublimetext.com. For purposes of this, we are going to go to Sublime Text 4 and we are going to download it for our PC or our Mac. So I'm going to click download and you have to pick your operating system. In this case, I have a Mac. You will have to have administrative rights to the computer. So one thing you need to remember is if you have downloaded Sublime Text and it is a zip file, you double click on it and you must extract it. It will actually let you run this app inside the unextracted zip, but that's a really bad idea. So you want to click extract and it is going to install it. And then once it installs it, right now I just still have it in downloads. I will probably go ahead and move it to my applications folder right here. So I have moved Sublime Text so I'm moving that out of Dropbox and I'm putting it in applications. But now when I do Command Spacebar and I type Sublime, it comes open. And so I've got to do that properly. If I don't do that properly, then Sublime Text will not open properly. Okay. And once I get it open and I create, I go to File, New File, and I create it, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Okay. Now, I recommend you make a folder for this activity. A lot of people like to make a folder on their desktop. So I'm hitting the down arrow, I'm clicking New Folder, and I'm going to call this Demo Site Create. Now you're going to turn in a screenshot for my students of how this looks. And I'm going to call this index.html. Now you want to call it index.html so it will properly highlight your syntax. Now we're going to start off by just saying what type of document this is. Now we've done that by saying HTML, but I'm going to do exclamation point and doc type HTML. And you can see it's putting some highlighting in for me and it's making sure that I've got things in. Now, you're going to see somebody who's been coding here since the 90s, and I read a lot of code and things and how to do it. So some of my techniques may be antiquated compared to what they teach now, but let's just learn it this way. You can see it's suggesting tags. I've already got the HTML tag. So what I always would do is do the /HTML. Now notice it actually just plugged that in for me, like it knew what I was going to be typing there. There's two sections. There's the head, okay, and the tag expands to that. So if I hit enter, it goes ahead and throws my ending there, which I like. Now I like to have a little bit of space there, so I kind of press enter a few times, which I probably don't have to do. But you can see that this gives me a little bit of help, which I love. Now, if I just start typing title, if I press enter before I finish the end, it goes ahead and types the ending tag, which really can save you some time, which is why we're using this tool, Sublime Text versus Notepad. It just gives you a little bit of help and it helps you with the nested tag. Now, I'm going to start off with, I want yours to be your hobby page. Now, you can also notice it does some really nice indenting for me, which is great. Now, I also want to just go ahead and put the body section in here and make a little space there. Of course, it's going to go there to the end. There's two sections here. There's the head and the body. Now, it's not header, it's head. Okay, now certain tags can go within the head and certain tags can go with the body that can't go in the other sections. So you can't really put title in the body. I don't even think it would work. I don't even know how it would show on the page. And there's certain things in the body you cannot put in the head. So this is basic information about this particular topic. This will be the title that appears in the web browser. This is also where our metadata goes. And I can see that it's already putting this content in here because it knows what type of character encoding it is. Now my students will know exactly what um, the content is there and what UTF-8 is, but some people may not know that. Notice that it does use mostly lowercase for this. I actually learned to code in uppercase, but lowercase is just easier and better. So I'm going to put in a description. So this is going to be my description of my page. I'm using the arrow keys on my keyboard. You could also, of course, use your mouse. And then I'm going to have content. Now, this is a description of what the page is. It's very important to Google. Typically, it's about 2 sentences long, and it tells you about your page. By putting that in there, I am making that word, Cool Cat Teacher, be a very important part of this particular content. If Google was searching it, they would really care about that. Meta, and now I'm going to say, give an author tag. Oops, I just put the wrong type. Author, and I am the author. Notice I don't have any spaces. That's where you will put your name. I've got the bracket there. So now I've got my title. I've got my meta tags. I've got my opening. I've got my HTML nested here. I've got my head nested there. And I've got my body section nested there. Now there's not a lot more that we're going to add to this demo number 1, but we are adding heading 1. Again, if I hit tab there, it's going to go ahead and create the opening and closing. You can see that text is in white. Oh my goodness, I can't tell you how much easier this is than the way it used to be. Now I've got the paragraph tag, and I'm just going to write a little bit about my hobbies, write a little bit about yours. No spell check in here. Okay, so I've got to close that. And I did a /P and it went ahead and put it in here. Now there's one thing I'm adding that you do not have to add in demo number 1 because I want you to see what it looks like. And we talked in the opener about hypertext and what it is. So I am going to make a hyperlink, coolcatteacher.com. Now, at the beginning, I'm going to say my website and colon. So you can see the text is here on my website. And then this Cool Cat Teacher is nested inside this. Now, again, the red is the tag and the purple is the attribute. Okay, so we used to call them modifiers, so I may slip and call it modifiers in this video series, but attributes and modifiers are the same thing. So this is the attribute. This is a hypertext reference. So A is anchor, hypertext reference is the attribute, and then it's going to https coolcatteacher.com and then end bracket, and then www.coolcatteacher.com is the hyperlink, the hypertext, so it will be underlined, and then I close the anchor tag. And you can see how this kind of just jumps out at you as the tags are in red, the attributes are in purple, the text that gives you the data for the attributes is in green, and then the actual text on the page is in white. Now, when you are coding and your teacher is coding, you will often refer to line numbers, and the line numbers are automatic. They're not part of the code. They're just part of this particular app, which is so very useful. But you can see how this is still a line here. Enters don't work like they work in other places, okay? So if I press enter, this is a new line, but this code will actually probably all show up right here together. These are just lines of code for purposes of programming and spacing things out. So you may even save this and then these lines may not even be there. It may be all kind of there together. So I am going to save this. Remember, I've saved it as index.html and I'm pointing to it so you can see where it's located. So it's on my desktop in demo site in index.html. Now you always, when you're doing this, want to have a couple of things installed on your computer, a couple of different browsers. But my default browser is Chrome.
Let's see if this is going to open. Open with a Google Chrome. And you can see here that this is the location for this particular file. You can see that this is Cool Cat Teachers, a hobby page. If I close some of these other pages, you might could see it. I don't think so, but when I point to it and it says it's a local or shared file, you can see that this wraps all the way around here. And then this is the website. Now, here's the cool thing. When I was coding in the early days, a long time ago, I would pull this stuff up side by side. And let's just say I want to take this right here and I want to add that in there. Now notice I've made a new paragraph and I want to end that paragraph there. Now, the paragraph tag is a lot more forgiving than other tags because it will, sometimes you don't have to do the closer, but I typically like to because I like good, perfect code. And so I'm going to hit save now. I'll go over here and I hit refresh and see how that popped that down there. There we go. You can kind of see. Now, notice you have to be really careful about spaces. I forgot the space in here. Now, the spaces will show up if it's part of the text. So I'm going to do file save. Back over here, refresh, and you can see the space is now there. This is a hyperlink. So this will actually take me to the web because HTTP is on the web. So if I click it, it will actually go to my real website. Okay, even though this is locally on my machine. So let's go over how this first little demo rubric you could grade yourself or your teacher will grade you. I will grade you, talk about how I'm going to grade this. So I'm taking a look for the document type HTML, making sure it's there. Is the HTML at the beginning and the end? Remember, it makes a big, huge nest. The head in the proper section and location, open and close before, and then you've got the title, which is the title of the page, that will appear at the top in the web browser. The three kinds of meta tags, the character set, description, content, author. And then we want to have the body section open and closed. I want a header 1 open and closed, and a little paragraph of 3 sentences at opener. I'm going to also look at the code syntax. Make sure it's saved properly as an HTML and turned in. I also want a screenshot of the demo folder and to see that it's named index.html because that's a little trick there as well. And you are through with your first HTML code. You've learned the very basic.